Now, Joe Bob's Last Call and The Kiss on TNT.
What the heck was that? 3 minutes of movie and 17 minutes of credits? I think maybe they could have just tacked that ending onto the last segment, don't you? Well, I won't dwell on that because I want to tell you that right after the show, we'll all be heading down to Miami for Super Bowl week. Once again, the deadly combination of Joe Bob Briggs and Pepsi AC will be bringing you the finest football movies and movies starring football players throughout Super Bowl weekend. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, does that mean they're just going to show the longest yard over and over and over again? Well, of course it does. Next Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday, we're going to be all over the Super Bowl, and I'll be in Miami all week long. So if you see me, say hey to me, all right? But right now, it's time for The Kiss, starring Joanna Pecula as a high-fashion model vampire werewolfess who comes to stay with her dead sister's family and starts aardvarking with her dead sister's husband so she can gain his confidence and try to get close to his daughter so she can stick this slimy devil tongue into the daughter's mouth and get eternal life. Does that about sum it up?
Yeah.
I think so. So here's the drive-in totals. We have 5 dead bodies, 5 breasts, all belonging to Joanna Pecula and all hacked out. 1 motor vehicle collision, neck biting, bug zapping, finger chopping, escalator mangling, delivery guy flattening, priest burning, scissor through the neck, wrist breaking, cat toasting, gratuitous swimming, exploding pool, naked voodoo, 3 stars. Check it out and I'll be here with you throughout. In this version, we only get those obstructed views of Joanna Pecula's 2 biggest talents, you know? Kind of like having seats at the Super Bowl with a pole right in front of you, you know? I did deduct half a star from the movie for that, and that may not be enough for that sacrifice, but we'll see. Of course, it is Joanna Pecula, and sometimes when I look at her, I do have a pole right in front of me, if you know what I mean, and I think you do.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and The Kiss on TNT.
Could we make this plot a little more complicated? We got your Belgian Congo, we got your multiple generations, we got jet-setting witches, we got slutty Catholic schoolgirls in Albany, New York, we got the alcoholic dad subplot, and we got something rarely seen on cable or anywhere else for that matter, the strangulation of a small child. Now, how did that get past the TNT High Sheriffs? Give me that memo again. Where does it say small child strangulation, okay, but don't say the word and whoop? I didn't say, I said Lebo.
Oh, yeah.
Lebo. Lebo the elephant, sister of Dumbo the elephant. That's what I was. And speaking of dark, brooding, lesbiterian subplots, what the heck is this movie about? You know you're in trouble when they introduce that gargoyle thing around her neck. Anytime you get a locket, a totem, a magic stone, a pendant, anything in the general area of costume jewelry, you got a massively complex plot. So look out, here it comes. And by the way, I do feel duty-bound to tell you that they did major surgery on that scene where Mom dies in the car crash. The whole shock of that scene came when they pull her body out from under the car, but her leg stays put.
Ooh.
You don't really get that in the TNT version. Okay, more later, but back to the movie. And by the way, I didn't care for that crack the girl made about glow-in-the-dark condoms. Men died creating that technology.
Yeah.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and The Kiss on TNT.
By the way, sweetheart, the woman lounging by the pool in a leopard print outfit is the sister of your dead mother who your mother couldn't stand, but she'll be staying here in the house because I think she's hot. Is that how that father-daughter talk went? You know, I'm just trying to imagine. This is Weenie Mail Night on TNT, isn't it? And why is Dad smiling all the time? Nicholas Kilbertus is the father. He smiles through this whole gall-darn film. Hey, I'm going to throw out my dead wife's clothes, even though they still smell like her perfume. Isn't that nice? And then there's that suave cake delivery guy, the guy with the brilliant pickup line. So I'll see you around, right? That's his pickup line. Anyhow, really great, disgusting scene coming up here now, so roll it. Actually, I've used that line before. See you around. Girls love that as a as a line, you know? It expresses the desire to see that woman again, but without any specific requirement on my part to actually see her again in case something better comes along.
Oh, yeah.
Chicks love that. Chicks and broads just love that.
TNT is unleashing its own Joe Bob Briggs on Miami for Super Bowl 33.
We're bringing you 7 classic football movies, plus 3 more films starring gridiron legends like Fred here, plus live hourly updates from Miami, a city that is completely in love with my acute sense of style. Pull! Diet, pull!
Pepsid AC Super Bowl weekend on TNT. Be heartburn-free with Pepsid AC Chewables.
It all starts Friday night at 10:30
On TNT.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and The Kiss on TNT.
Okay, we've got wild monkeys from Africa in the Vitaplan Research Facility and a cousin it with rabies fierce attack cat that slashes in the night. And where did that thing come from? Is it like a psychic fur ball that Joanna Pecula coughed up or something, or did I miss something? Okay, there were a number of things set up in that last part that are never going to pay off because who has time? What do we have here, about 87 subplots at this point? But I won't tell you which things will fail to lead anywhere. It'll be like a little game for us, okay? Vitamin Factory, yes or no? Rabid monkeys, yes or no? Evil pool filter, you know, write down your answers, talk amongst yourselves in the chat room, give yourself a prize if you're right, and don't cheat. All right, back to the flick. I had a math teacher who used to always say, those who cheat are only cheating themselves. And I would say, you know, you're right, but I've decided not to press charges.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and The Kiss on TNT.
That is a well-established scientific fact. When your father has sex with a voodoo devil woman, never try to attend anatomy class at that same moment. It'll give you a hell of a headache, and in the case of young girls, your period will come early. But couldn't we just do without that weenie in the bakery shop entirely? Does he have a purpose in the movie? All right. I'm not going to ponder that, because it's time for Joe Bob's Jailbreak, where we read the mail from America's fine penal institutions. And here to help us out is the one-woman's ratings bonanza, Rusty, the TNT mail girl. And how you doing, Rusty? Whoa. Ugh. Do you think the guys ever goof on that phrase, penal institution?
Don't even go there.
And in the women's prisons, you think they go, we wish this was a penal institution.
After a while, I'm sure they do.
I thought you didn't want to go there.
That was before you hit home.
You're not having a little dry spell, are you?
I'm just being sympathetic, that's all.
Uh-huh.
What? If I was having a dry spell, it would be because I chose to.
Yes, I'm painfully aware of that. In fact, let's move on, because I don't want to get depressed about that. We'll get off on that subject.
All right, here's a letter from Terry Hall. It's from the Carson City Correctional Facility in Carson City, Michigan.
Okay, dear Joe Bob, I am part of your captive audience that makes up 10% of Michigan's total population, 65,000 men. I am locked in one of its 50-plus prisons that seem to be expanding rapidly, but thank God I've not been privatized yet, although I'm part of a large industry that bases its justice on profit. I enjoy watching your programs. Would like to thank you for giving prisoners an outlet to respond to your programming, especially your letters from inmates. There's one fallacy I'd like to clear up. The televisions found inside the Michigan Department of Corrections are not paid for by the state, as much as they take credit for it. For a 12-inch black and white Avanti model 1239U television, we all have those. We know what those are. We are charged $78 for one of the 100s that we order at a time. That money rarely comes from prison jobs, which pay an average of $3 per week. If you're lucky to have a job with the overcrowded conditions, the money comes from the families of inmates. We are very lucky to be able to view your programs, and we have you and our families to thank for being able to. It should also be noted that not only are the televisions not paid for by the state, but all the recreation equipment, including weights and the furniture found in the day rooms and the 3 microwaves in the unit, and even the store where we can buy the little things that are not supplied by the state, like medications, toilet supplies, soap, shampoo, nail clippers, combs, are bought and paid for by the families of inmates. Most of what we have comes from the profits of our store, where we, through the funds sent by our families, pay the salaries of the storekeepers, $80,000 a year for 2 men. Okay, and this part's interesting. U.S. Sprint last year gave the Michigan Department of Corrections $6.8 million for the contract on inmate phones, and that money was supposed to be spent on education for inmates. Not. In fact, we have a classroom equipped with computer technology, but it is felt this technology should not be taught to inmates. The only time the classroom is used is for tours of the public. Truly yours, Terry Hall, number 163132, Carson City Correctional Facility, Carson City, Michigan. Well, Terry, here's my only question. Can I buy one of those $78 TVs? Who do I talk to? But thanks for your letter. We love a captive audience. Free your mind, and your butt will follow.
And that was nice of you to read that.
I do what I can. I also help out with dry spells.
You really want to know how you could help me out?
Probably not, no.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and The Kiss on TNT.
Well, we didn't get to see Joanna Pecula's fabulous garbanzas covered with voodoo paint, but we did get to see Meredith Salinger do the scissors through the throat thing. And apparently it's okay to show scissors through the throat as long as the victim is a bloodless supernatural being. That's in the TNT High Sheriff Guidelines somewhere. And Chris Wallace did the special effects for this flick. He got an Oscar for his work on The Fly, and he went on to direct The Fly 2. But I thought he could have used a little more blood for that scene we just watched. I do realize she's some kind of African voodoo monster, or she's dead, or both. But 5 minutes before that, she was squeezing blood out of herself like nobody's business, and I'm pretty sure there's more to come. So anyhow, let's not hang it up. Continue. Joanna Pecula is in that flick Virus. It just came out with Billy Baldwin, Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Sutherland. I'll watch Joanna in anything because I love Polish girls. Not as much as Estonian girls, Latvian girls. Now there's some outstanding cheesecake. Sorry, lost track there. Oh yeah, Polish girls. Polish girls. They know how to trim those hedges, if you know what I mean, and I think you do.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and The Kiss on TNT.
Well, we knew that priest was going to end up as a post-toasty, didn't we? So, okay, does anybody know exactly what Joanna Pecula is at this point? She has to pass some spirit with a lousy shelf life on to her niece that she got from her aunt, but where'd she learn that voodoo? Because her aunt turned into a rotten corpse when she gave her the lesbian kiss on the train, so I don't know where she would have fit in the voodoo lessons, right? Did you follow that? No. Anyway, she's got dead blood, she's got a cat with a saliva problem, she's got some nasty-looking melanoma, so here's the climactic conclusion to The Kiss, and maybe we'll get some answers here before we're finished. Maybe not. Meredith Salinger is the spellbound Amy, writhing half-naked on the bed. She's a cutie, isn't she? Hadn't seen her around much, but apparently she's making a movie right now about a man-eating alligator on the loose in Lake Placid. Directed by Steve Miner of Friday the 13th, Parts 2 and 3, and H2O, and written by David E. Kelly, creator of Ally McBeal, and Picket Fences, and Doogie Howser, and I tell you, Steve Miner and David Kelly. Everybody wants to do a horror flick now. What is that about? Anyhow, I like Meredith Salinger. She's an inspirational little actress. Yummy.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and The Kiss on TNT.
Well, you can't say they didn't have a big closer. I don't know, Stu, you think we should use a chainsaw in that final scene, or is that too much? Oh, what the hell. And then we have the aggressive, slimy spinal cord attack. And somehow, after not being able to hike her hiney up out of the pool for 5 long minutes, Meredith Salinger ends up on the concrete as the tank explodes underwater, and Dad is showing those pearly whites again. Oh, zippity-doo-dah, you escaped the evil slimy snake and my dead wife's sister, who turned into the corpse from hell. Happy, happy, happy. The classic Kiss, circa 1988. Okay, I want to remind you that next week there is no Monstervision per se, but I'll be on throughout the weekend with my special guests Fred Williamson and Kevin Green, and we'll have a whole passel of football-themed flicks delivered to you straight from South Beach in the Super Bowl city of Miami. And yes, I'm hauling the trailer right down to the beach. Won't that be fun? That's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that I don't know about art, but I know what makes me say $2,000 for that piece of junk. Are you a nut? Did you guys hear the one about the woman who goes into a funeral home to make arrangements for her husband's funeral? She tells the funeral director that she wants her husband to be buried in a dark blue suit. And the guy says, well, wouldn't it just be easier to bury him in the black suit that he's already wearing? But she insists it has to be a blue suit, tells him that money is no object. So when she comes back for the wake, she sees her husband in his coffin, and he's wearing a beautiful blue suit. She tells the funeral director how much she loves the suit and asks how much it cost, and the guy says, well, actually, it didn't cost anything because the funniest thing happened. As soon as you left, another corpse was brought in wearing a blue suit. I noticed they were about the same size, and I asked the other widow if she would mind if her husband was buried in a black suit, and she said that was fine with her, so I switched the heads.
Oh.
Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. Did you hear what happened to Rene Descartes on his flight to Miami? The stewardess asked him if he wanted another drink, and he said, I think not, and he disappeared. You didn't like that one. You guys know the definition of a Freudian slip? When you mean one thing and you say your mother. All right, two guys are in a bar. One says, I drink to forget. And the other guy says, me too. Why do you drink?